Hey everybody, Tekking here, and with the new release of episode of Sky Island only weeks away, it's going to be released on August 25th, 2018, I decided to focus a little bit on the sky. I know it's been a while since we've been there, but I think it's important to focus on this region before we get the OVA. I'm really pumped for that, because it really does feel like part of the One Piece anime that's never really been properly touched up since it originally aired back in like the early 2000s, so we're going to be getting that. I mean, I guess you could say that about the, Davy backfight a little bit, but honestly I think that's at the difference there where the animation really stepped up its game. If you watch Skypea compared to like Water 7 and Enies Lobby, there's a definite increase in the animation quality. I think that might have been when they switched over to digital, because there's always a point with that. If you go back and look at like any sort of animated program, not even just like anime but just like cartoons in America, there's a certain point in the 2000s where they switched over from like the traditional coloring system to the digital, and I believe in One Piece that's actually how it worked. So I still watch the Skypea arc. I go back and watch a few choice episodes, but it would be cool to see it touched up with the modern equipment, so we'll see what we'll get from there. Now, the essence of Skypea really is the Straw Hats go on vacation. I mean, I can't really think of a better way to describe that. I mean, they're tired of being chased around by the Marines, and the other pirates are trying to kill them and everything, and Luffy is a good pirate, so he's like, you know what, guys? We're going on vacation! And all the Straw Hats are like, yeah! And then that theme from Pikachu's Vacation cues up. Remember that little short that played before Mewtwo, the first movie? Like, vacation, vacation. That's what's going to be playing. Now, it's not about, like, defeating an oppressive god or how, endless warfare is not good for anyone. No, it's not about any of that. It's about the Straw Hats going on vacation. That's pretty much the essence of it there. So, yeah, this video is going to be focusing on the races that are found in the sky, a variety of races. In fact, we have the Shandians that have wings, we have the Brickens that have wings sometimes, and then we have the Skypieans also who have wings, but the wings are slightly different for each one, and they also have different hairstyles and stuff, so we'll be going into that. However, I should bring up that we really don't know that much about the sky in general, because we've only seen, like, I think I can count on my one hand the number of Sky Islands that we've seen in the story, some of which we've only seen, like little glimpses of, and that's it. Skypea is the most prominent, but I think Skypea, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe Skypea is just, like, a general term for Angel Island and Upper Yard, like, the region that was ruled over, like, directly by Eneru. Okay, because Eneru stated that he was God and everything, but from the way that Gonfall stated it, there are many Sky Islands. It's not just Upper Yard and Angel Island. There's Sky Islands all over the world, and you would figure there is because, it's the sky. The idea of it in One Piece anyway is that whenever Sea Prism Stone evaporates or it gets crystallized or something, it creates this substance called pyrobrine, and then that condenses in the atmosphere and it makes island cloud, and so people can live up there on this island cloud stuff. So it's possible that maybe only Sky Islands exist above the Grand Line where this evaporation process takes place, and that's it. But even if that was the case, still, you would have a bunch of different islands all across both halves of the Grand Line, even if it's not found in other sections of the world. So the fact that Eneru ruled over all of that, I mean, he would have the power to do it. It was just never really stated he did. He ruled over Upper Yard and maybe, Angel Island, and maybe there was a few other islands around that he controlled, but that was it. And we don't really know much about anything else. Like, we've seen Weatheria, which was the Sky Island that Nami was sent to. The people on Weatheria were like wizards and shit, and they didn't have wings, and they were like at a different elevation. Keep in mind, the White Sea is the first cloud layer, and that's found 7,000 meters above sea level. And then if you keep going up, you get to 10,000 meters, which is the White Sea. Really clever name, Zoda. And then that's where you get to Skypea and, like, the true Sky Islands. You get the sky races of the people walking around with wings on their back and everything. So, yeah. And then the other one we know of, the only other Sky Island I think we've ever seen is Balloon Terminal. And that was one we only got a glimpse of. That was one of the islands that Arouge took refuge at, sitting around after after his battle with Snack. Apparently, he went there to recover after attacking Big Mom's fleet. And that's the island that Kaido showed up to, try to kill himself, try to jump off this Sky Island and crash right into the ground, and that's just to prove just how, like, sturdy and strong and invincible this guy was. So I think that's really the only Sky Islands that we have seen even just glimpses of. But there are more out there, so we'll probably not see anything like that in the OVA. The OVA is going to have to, focus all of the Skypiea arc in like an hour and a half, so we're not going to get any really new information with that. But I hope at some point during the New World we go to the sky again, or at least it's referenced in some way. Like, oh yeah, there's a Sky Island up there. Yeah, okay. So the various sky races, the three that are the most prominent, and it's implied these are the only ones because of something else we're going to get later from the moon. We're going to have to address the moon in this video, which, of course, that gives me an instant, excitement boner, because I love the moon, talking about that in One Piece. So the first one, we're going to talk about just how they're introduced. First is the Skypiean race. This involves Konus and Paguya and pretty much everyone else that was, like, resident on Angel Island. The Sky Island, these are apparently the most widespread race found all throughout the sky, because the other ones are a little bit more selective. Like, we know Bricka was an island that was destroyed by Eneru, so there's really not a lot of Brickans left. And then the Shandians, their story is also a little unique. So when it comes to, like, the race that is most prominent in the sky, it would be the Skypieans, all right? So they have the antenna head dress things. It's actually their hair, the way they style their hair. I don't think they're actual antennas. They're just like the style in the sky. And they also have wings, okay? And the wings are pretty tiny, but I think they could still use them to fly, so they're useful in that regard. Now, when it comes to the Skypieans, their society has evolved heavily on dial usage. So they get these, this strange, species of sea creature. We still don't know what it is. Apparently uses these shells like a hermit crab, and then when they leave, you can pick up these shells and you can use them for a variety of purposes. You can use them for, like, flashlights, or to heat your oven, or you can use them for combat, you can use them for transport. There's a bunch of different, dials, and I made a whole video focused on every dial in One Piece, so go check that out there if you're curious about dials. So their society revolves around that. They have factories that allow them to cut various part of island cloud in order to make new things. There's other types of cloud that allow them to make furniture and houses and other things about that. They have waiver technology, which are, these jet skis that are powered by dials, and they're allowed to, like, scoot around, and they use these dials to power their boats as well. So it's a very different culture than what we see on the Blue Sea, most certainly. And it's unfortunate we didn't really get to focus too much on that society. We got a few chapters involving Skypiean tech, Konus walking around, and, Paguya showing the Straw Hats how all these dials work, and here's our town and everything. There was even an episode, or I don't know if this might have been in the manga too. In fact, I think it was in the manga, where Luffy actually stumbles into a dial shop. Like, Luffy's walking down the street on, like, Angel Island, and there's this ladder thing or something, and he climbs up it, or uses his gum powers to get up to the top, and he's like, oh, this is a dial shop. Okay, and then he just leaves. Like, I would have liked to know more about that. Like, how does this culture work? But the whole point of Skypiea was we have to focus on Eneru and Upper Yard, and so we move everything from the mystical Cloud Island to the normal jungle island that we literally just came from, because it's Jaya, essentially. So I'm like, oh, okay. I would have preferred a few more chapters focused on their culture, but I get it. You gotta move the story along. I believe Skypiea was actually the longest arc in One Piece the longest standalone arc in One Piece before Dressrosa, so there was a lot of stuff packed into it. I just think there's a few more things he could have included, considering, this is a completely different region, even more so than, like, the way the Grand Line was different from the East Blue. This is the sky. This is full of a bunch of races that some of them have never even seen people from the Blue Sea before. This is very different here. So, yeah, those are the Skypieans. We see them around quite a bit. They're the most prominent race that we see in the sky. Then we get to the Brickans. The Brickans are the race that Eneru belongs to, as well as with his priests. Arouge is also a member of the Brickans, and how do you know this? Well, because their wings point downwards, whereas the Skypieans and the Shandorians point upwards. So that's how you can tell. The only exception to this is Eneru, who, for whatever reason, does not have his wings. Now, I don't know if he felt like because he's a god and he's special that he just ripped his wings off. That does not sound like it was, painless, too. It's just like, I am a god. I will stand above all others. You know what? I'm gonna rip my wings off and put these, like, the heavenly tomoe on me. And like, okay, well, here we go. Ah! Ah! I'm God, maybe that's what he did. And so, yeah, that's the mark of heaven, the tomoe things. If you've ever seen Naruto, you know what those means. Of course, it's a famous image in Japanese mythology, but, that's what his design is. So, yeah, there's even been theories, because he doesn't have wings, that he never did, and that he's actually from the Blue Sea. I've heard a lot of theories involving that. Although there's some problems with that as well. Like, he still didn't know what rubber was when Luffy fought him. He was still confused by that concept and everything. So I do believe that Eneru was just a normal Bricken living in another Sky Island. Maybe it was a different culture than the Skypiean culture. Maybe it was more of a warrior-centric culture, because everyone that we know from Bricka is good at fighting, like the priests and Eneru and Rouge. They're all like muscular and built for battle. So maybe it was a more warrior-centric area. Well, what we do know about it is that Eneru destroyed it. We can assume, and we don't get a flashback with Eneru. We don't get a flashback to see what his life was like, you know, when he was a boy, or when he ate the Goro Goro no Mi, or anything like that. I would have liked to see that. Oda doesn't always do that, though. Oda doesn't really always show us a flashback involving the main enemy. Sometimes he does, like with Lucci. When we were in Ennie's lobby, we got a little flashback of Lucci and what his life was like growing up as, like, a member of the Cypher Pole. But we didn't get a flashback with Crocodile. We didn't get a flashback with Magellan. Like, during Marineford, we didn't get a flashback with any of the admirals. We got flashbacks with the admirals later, but not during Marineford. We got nothing from Moria, really, from Thriller Bark. I think we had Perona's flashback, and that was it. We didn't get, like, a flashback to Moria when he was a little kid or something. So Oda doesn't always do that. But in Eneru's case, I feel like there's a lot of gaps that are necessary for us to find out, because, like I said, it's a completely different culture. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's hinted at with Crocodile, but when it comes to Eneru, it's just like, yeah, he was from this place called Bricka, and he destroyed it, and then he came here, and then he, you know, took the throne of God. And that was pretty much all we get. So I'm going to assume at some point Eneru, you know, maybe he had a weird ideology growing up. Maybe he felt like, oh, I'm going to find the fairy Verth. I'm going to go there one day. That's my ultimate dream. I don't care what anyone says. And maybe people told him, you know, you need to calm down, man. You need to just focus on where you're at here and now. The reference here is that people will always want to go higher and higher, or they'll always want more, you know. The joke is, you know, not even really a joke. It's just, you have the people on the ground and the blue sea, and they look up at the sky like, we need to go to the sky. The sky is this new land. And when it comes to people actually growing up in the sky, they're looking up even further like, the fairy Verth, the moon, we need to go there. It's our new land. We have to go there. And if someone grew up on the moon, they'd probably be looking to a distant star and being like, we need to go there. Like, you're never happy where you're at. You always have to try to get to somewhere else, somewhere higher, somewhere that was always off limits before that. You know, that's why we went to the moon. That damn thing was sitting up there for thousands of years, mocking us, and we're like, screw you, we're getting there someday. And we did. And we landed, and we walked around for a little bit, and we made like 2, 3, 4 more trips, and then we stopped because, you know, it was... Not really. We found out it wasn't actually, in fact, made of cheese, and after that, we just like, you know, whatever, moon, screw you, right? But, yeah, that's the point. Also, there was probably something with the Soviet Union in there, too, why we had to go to the moon. But anyway, the point is, Eneru probably at a young age wanted to go to the fairy Verth, and then everyone around him was probably just mocking him or telling him, you know, no, it's just, you can't go there, it's impossible. And so, one day he probably found the Goro Goro no Mi, ate it, and then was like, oh, absolute power, I have the great power now, all that mock me will die, and he just, like, divine thunderclap, Raigeki the shit out of Bricka, brought his personal followers with him, like, anyone with me? And then that's when, oh, gods enforcers, like Yama, they were all part of Bricka, too. So they all come up and they, you know, follow Eneru as their god, and then they left, and I like to have a theory that a Rouge actually refused to be part of Eneru. I like to think a Rouge, when he was asked, you know, Eneru's like, will you follow me, a Rouge, or will you die with the rest? And a Rouge was like, screw you, I choose neither, and he just left. And he just, you know, went down to the Blue Sea and became a pirate. So Blirka was destroyed by Eneru, and Eneru went on to Upper Yard to become the true god, and in search and construction of an ark capable of carrying him to the fairy Verth, or the endless Verth. So that was his goal, right? So, yeah. I made a video about Eneru talking about, like, his goal and ambitions for the moon, so maybe go see that. But when it comes to Brickens, yeah, they're, like, just a more warrior-centric race than the others. We don't really get much more about their culture. They don't, like, I would have loved to see a moment where, like, Ohm or Shura or somebody talks about their homeland, and we get, like, a flashback to what Bricka was like, and where they, you know, what the society was, and, you know, what happened when Eneru came to power and all that stuff, but we don't really get anything like that, so we don't really know much about their homeland. And like I said, I really think, like, it's not just, like, Angel Island, Upper Yard, and then Bricka. There's, like, multiple islands all over, and they might all have different names for the people that live there, and maybe they all might be a little bit different, because Sky Islands are kind of apart from each other. If there's, like, a good enough distance between each one, it might kind of be like, like Native American tribes, back during, before the Europeans arrived here. You had tribes that were scattered all over the continent, and some of them formed communities with each other that were close, but some of them, you had, like, some tribes, like the Cherokee, that were, I believe, living in the south eastern part of America, and then you had the other, tribes that were all the way up in, like, the Montana region or something. They never had connection with each other, so that might be kind of like how it is. It's like, oh, well, Angel Island is close to this island, so we know about that one, but there might be another island on the other side of the Grand Line that we know nothing about, just because it's so far of distance. So, actually, speaking of Native Americans, we now get to the Shandians. And this is the one that is the most a little confusing, I guess. Okay, so, bear with me now. All of these races that we're aware of, the Skypieans, the Shandorians, and the Brickans, they all come from the moon. The moon is the originator of all of these species of sky people that might also very well be the originator of all people on the Earth. But we know at least all sky people came from there because we saw a mural that Eneru was looking at that depicts various people with the different wings. The Skypiean wings, the Brickan wings, and the Shandorian wings, okay? I believe actually back then they were just called the Shandians, and then later on they were called the Shandorians, but it's the same basic concept. Okay, so then resources on the moon started to run out, so they had to go down into the big planet below them. So they got aboard, like, their vessels or whatever, and they, went to the Earth. And the Skypieans and the Brickans, they landed in the sky, and they decided to set up shop there, whereas the Shandians made it all the way down to the actual blue sea. And so they set up shop on the island of Jaya. Alright, so you have basically 3 unique races of moon people that are deciding to live on the Earth. 2 of those races land in the sky and live there. Then you have the Shandians that made it to the blue sea, but then the knock-up stream knocked part of Jaya up back into the sky, so then you had the Shandorians also living in the sky now for the last 400 years. Yeah, so that's why, like, when Noland arrives at Jaya 400 years ago and meets Kalgara, they all have wings too. Right? I actually completely missed this the first time reading or watching this arc. I just assumed that the Shandorians, they had they had no connection with the sky whatsoever. They were just a bunch of people that were like a tribe of, like Native Americans living on the Blue Sea and the Grand Line, and then the knock-up stream shot them into the sky, and they just had to make do. It was kind of like a Mandela effect sort of thing, where I had to go back and look at that arc, and I noticed, like, oh no, yeah, Kalgara and everybody, they had wings too, even though they were living in the Grand Line at the time. So yeah, they're still descendants from those moon people. So yeah, it's like a weird thing, where it's like they go down, and then they go down, and then they go back up, and it's like, okay. But, right, so the Shandorians, well, their elder is this dude. I don't think we ever really find out his name. He's like the leader of the tribe. And then we have their greatest warrior, Wiper. So, and by the way, Wiper, major badass. I know it's been a while. People like, oh yeah, Wiper was really cool, but it's been like over 10 years since we've seen the dude, so you might not be, remembering him all that well. But Wiper, to refresh your memory, badass Shandorian. He's got tattoos, wicked hairstyle, smokes cigars, and then like has a reject dial that this thing literally wrecks your arm every time you use it. Wiper uses it like 3 or 4 times in the entire arc. He don't give a alright, it's just like, reject dial! BAM! Yeah! So, Wiper's cool. And he's got the bazooka and everything, right? So, they don't really have much of a claim to the sky as all the other, races do, because they weren't originally from the sky. They were originally from the moon, but the moon is different from the sky. You with me so far? Okay, cool. So, the Skypieans have spread out quite a bit, and the Brickans had their own little slice of land that was destroyed by Eneru. And by the way, Eneru, the whole destroying Bricka and setting up shop on Upper Yard, that only happened like 6 years before the current timeline, or, well, 6 years before the start of the series, 8 years ago now with the time skip. So, I can imagine, after the Shandorians got shot into the sky via the knock-up stream, they were living there for a while, and they probably, like the other sky races, probably just kind of let them alone and just did what they did. But then Eneru showed up and started like, no, I want the Verth for myself, and so I will live here. And then that's when the war started, kind of rekindled the flame from like Nolan's time of this war. And that's like a really long thing involving the Shandorians that they're taught at a young age. That's how Wiper grew up. You know, you have to defend your homeland from these people because there was like a misunderstanding with Nolan and everything. Remember that? So this has continued like 400 years later until finally Luffy defeats Eneru, and this battle ends after so many centuries, and then the Shandorians can finally like live in peace with the Sky people because Eneru has been defeated and his men are gone. Geretsu's in the Blue Sea. Shura's dead. I can't remember exactly what happened to Ohm and Hattori. They either screwed off or they died too. So, or was it Hattori or Satori? Because there was, I don't know, wait, I think it was Satori was the priest, right? And then Hattori and Katori were his, like, dumbass younger brothers. Okay, fine. Okay, fair enough. So I actually don't remember what happened to them. I know that Sanji defeated Satori and Zoro defeated Ohm, but I can't remember if they were killed or if they were knocked off or they just thrown in jail, or I really don't know what happened to them. I know Geretsu landed in the Blue Sea and Wiper straight up murdered Shura. But aside from that, I don't know. Yeah, so anyway, now everything seems to be going good in the sky. You know, Usopp introduced the rubber band, so now they have rubber band land, and Goldie Rod, no, it was actually Nolan that introduced the pumpkins, so Gonfall likes to, you know, water his pumpkins and everything. It's a very peaceful land up there. Goldie Roger did arrive at the sky 20 years ago when he left that little carving on the poneglyph, the same poneglyph that directs you to Poseidon, so they know about him as well. But yeah, things are turning around in the sky for right now, and so the Brickens are all but extinct, is the sad thing. Arouge is still around, but I don't think we'll ever see him go back to, like, Skypea or, you know, the ruins of Bricka, or I don't think we'll ever even get to see it again. But I hope that Oda figures out some way to incorporate the sky back into the story. Eneru's story is certainly not done, so we're gonna see him again, I guarantee you we will. Especially with the moon and everything. It's just that when it comes to, like, Upper Yard and the Shandorians and the Skypieans, like Conus, they're, like, on the other side of the world. And it's not impossible to get back there because of the nature of the sky, but it's very unlikely we'll get to see them in the main storyline, you know, actually being relevant. But maybe they will, I don't know. I'm still waiting for that moment where Eneru rides down from the moon on his ark, and he has, like, lightning horses, and he has this giant lightning staff, and he has his entire army of automata, and he raids Marijois, and he's like, I am your new god! You know, that would be really cool. Or he has an ancient weapon, one of the two. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. This was just a little video on the sky races. We're going to be getting into the actual, like, geography of the various sky islands that we're aware of in a Geography is Everything video that I'll have coming out, so look forward to that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking101 signing out. See ya!